When NASA began its public live stream of the interstellar object known as 3I/ATLAS, no one expected it to become one of the most controversial broadcasts in modern astronomy. Millions tuned in as the feed displayed the icy traveler streaking across the darkness, its faint trail illuminated by sunlight. But halfway through the session, the screen flickered. For a brief instant, an object appeared beside the comet, smooth, spherical, glowing with a dull metallic hue. Then the feed cut to black. The familiar NASA insignia replaced the image, followed by an abrupt message: "Technical difficulties. Please stand by." Within seconds, social media erupted. Forums dedicated to space phenomena exploded with captured screenshots and replay clips. Amateur astronomers worldwide confirmed they had seen it too, a distinct object near 3I/ATLAS that wasn't there before. It hovered, reflected light, and then, as if it knew it was being watched, seemed to rotate before the broadcast abruptly ended. NASA's silence only fueled speculation. Official spokespeople claimed the shutdown was due to a data link error, but few believed it. In an age where every anomaly becomes evidence, the internet had already declared something extraordinary was being hidden. To understand why the moment mattered, one must revisit what 3I/ATLAS actually is. Discovered traveling on an open trajectory through our solar system, it's the third confirmed interstellar object, after the enigmatic Oumuamua and the comet Borisov. Yet, unlike the others, 3I/ATLAS behaved strangely. Its brightness fluctuated inconsistently, its spin altered mid-course, and its path defied simple gravitational prediction. Scientists initially dismissed these irregularities as outgassing, but the data never quite matched. Then came the anomaly. A still frame extracted by a researcher known only as Vega 3 revealed what NASA didn't want seen: a perfect sphere near the object's nucleus, reflecting light in a structured pattern. It didn't resemble debris, dust, or natural rock. It was geometric, crafted. Within hours, discussion threads began linking the sighting to the boogosphere, a term resurfacing from declassified Department of Defense documents. The boogosphere was described as a self-propelled metallic orb observed by early orbital telescopes, its purpose unknown. If the object near 3I/ATLAS matched this, it would mean something unprecedented, an engineered device traveling alongside an interstellar visitor. NASA's denial came quickly. They attributed the image to a compression artifact, but internal leaks told a different story. A message circulated among mission staff admitted the object of concern was being investigated by a joint task group involving NASA, the DoD, and the Office of Space Commerce. The shutdown, it stated, was in accordance with security protocol involving unidentified technological objects. Dr. Stephen Greer, a longtime figure in UFO disclosure circles, weighed in publicly 2 days later. "We're witnessing the beginning of an event the public was never meant to see," he declared. NASA's feed didn't glitch. They shut it down because they saw something that challenged the narrative. Analysts across the world dissected the few available frames. They noticed a consistent pulse: 3 flashes, pause, 2 flashes, repeating faintly from the sphere's surface. To those familiar with communication theory, it looked intentional, perhaps a transmission. When researchers compared the signal frequency to prior recordings of UAP incidents over the Pacific, the patterns aligned disturbingly well. The next twist came when a Chilean observatory tracking 3I/ATLAS reported a sudden deceleration of the object by nearly 2%, something impossible without propulsion. For an inert comet, this defied all known physics. If it wasn't natural, then it was being controlled. By then, other observatories reported losing tracking data. The object's telemetry vanished as if it had been erased. A few astronomers noted their remote telescope access accounts had been suspended for maintenance. For many, it was clear. Access to 3I/ATLAS had been locked down globally. Leaked reports from military radar networks confirmed intermittent returns showing an object detaching from the main body of 3I/ATLAS. It emitted a short-lived burst of heat before going dark. The shape was consistent with the metallic sphere seen on NASA's feed. But without confirmation, the official story remained that the comet was continuing on its projected course. Meanwhile, independent scientists started digging deeper into old archives. They discovered early data from the ATLAS telescope showing fluctuating albedo patterns, suggesting structural surfaces rather than natural ice. Some sections even reflected light as if polished. That's when a deeper connection began to form. In declassified documents from the Orion Gate Research Initiative, a Cold War-era program studying artificial anomalies in deep space, references emerged to an interstellar mechanical observer, potentially linked to mythological descriptions of watchers found in Mesopotamian texts. Those myths, eerily enough, described spheres of fire that descended from the heavens. The parallels couldn't be ignored. Scholars pointed out that ancient Sumerian records, particularly those referencing the Anunnaki, described objects of similar shape used as chariots of the gods. The discovery beneath the Iraqi sands, which unearthed relics suggesting genetic manipulation by advanced visitors, seemed suddenly connected. Could 3I/ATLAS and its sphere be a remnant of the same intelligence that visited Earth thousands of years ago? The thought was almost unthinkable, yet impossible to dismiss. Then came another leak. A classified internal transmission from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory referencing contact contingency scenarios. The memo ordered a full blackout of live transmissions until verification of non-natural activity ceases. Translation: if they saw evidence of technology, the public wouldn't see it again. A week later, a group of hackers claimed to have accessed a private NASA feed still monitoring the object. What they found defied belief. In a grainy, time-stamped frame, a faint lattice of glowing lines extended from the sphere, connecting momentarily with the comet's tail before both disappeared into the darkness. The implication? The sphere was doing something, perhaps harvesting energy, perhaps guiding. The footage was uploaded to the dark web and quickly purged. Accounts that shared it vanished overnight, suspended or erased. The metadata traced back to official NASA channels, confirming authenticity. Yet the agency refused comment. Radio astronomers detected brief bursts on deep space frequencies immediately after the shutdown. The signal was structured, repeating at intervals that mirrored the sphere's flash pattern. Linguists later identified rhythm similarities to sequences found in ancient cuneiform mathematical tables, specifically the base 60 encoding system of the Sumerians. Coincidence or deliberate design? For Greer and his team, this was the final straw. They called for a public congressional hearing on unacknowledged space phenomena. He stated, 3I/ATLAS is not just a rock from another star, it's a messenger. And NASA knows it. Around the same time, astronomers in Hawaii reported an energy bloom, a brief infrared flash roughly in the same trajectory as 3I/ATLAS. The readings didn't match any known cometary event. When cross-referenced with James Webb data, scientists found gaps in the publicly released files. Those data sets, which should have shown mid-infrared mapping of the comet, were missing or redacted. Requests for clarification went unanswered. Soon, the Pentagon quietly released a memo through its All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARO, acknowledging anomalous interstellar signatures. It mentioned artificial symmetry and unexpected motion detected during the NASA broadcast window. Within hours, that document too was scrubbed. Meanwhile, independent researcher Dr. Elena Marek discovered something chilling. Using motion extrapolation, she found that the object's projected course would intersect Earth's orbital plane, precisely during the next solar conjunction. Whatever 3I/ATLAS was, it wasn't leaving as expected. Speculation hit fever pitch. Some claimed the sphere was an alien probe. Others suggested it was part of a Black Ops satellite recovery mission gone wrong. But then, yet another twist emerged. A fragment of audio leaked from a classified teleconference between NASA and Space Command officials. A voice stated, "The object responded. Repeat, the object responded." That phrase changed everything. Following that revelation, observatories in multiple countries received orders to redirect instruments away from the coordinates. Officially, it was to prevent redundant observation. Unofficially, it was a cover to restrict data. Amateurs trying to image the location found blank skies, even though mathematically the object should still be visible. By late month, all live NASA feeds involving deep space monitoring were replaced with pre-recorded loops. The public-facing portal for 3I/ATLAS tracking now displayed a single static image dated weeks prior. To most, the case was closed, but researchers knew otherwise. Cross-analysis of solar wind patterns showed a faint disturbance along 3I/ATLAS's former path, like something large and metallic had absorbed or redirected plasma streams. That kind of behavior indicated shielding technology, not a cometary coma. The idea that it was natural now seemed absurd. One final puzzle piece came from a forgotten corner of archaeology. Among the artifacts found in the ancient Sumerian site, referenced in the secret tomb beneath the Iraqi sands, There existed a set of cylinder seals depicting a bright orb trailing a tail with figures pointing upward. The inscriptions read, "The messenger returns with the light of the ancestors." Historians once thought it metaphorical. Now, it read like prophecy. If the Anunnaki legends described ancient visitors who once engineered life on Earth, perhaps their technology, or even their automated envoys, still wandered the galaxy. 3I/ATLAS, escorted by its metallic companion, could be one of them, a relic from a forgotten cosmic era, returning on schedule. As Greer put it, what if disclosure isn't coming from governments, but from the cosmos itself? Weeks after the shutdown, another encrypted image leaked anonymously. It showed what looked like the sphere splitting into 3 smaller units, glowing faintly and forming a triangular formation near the comet's tail. Then they vanished from visible spectrum detection. The transmission ended seconds later. NASA denied authenticity, but experts confirmed the timestamp aligned exactly with the Livestream blackout event. That meant the image captured the last thing ever seen before the public feed went dark. Independent labs examined the light spectrum and found traces of structured emission bands consistent with engineered plasma, not starlight or reflection. To many, that confirmed what skeptics feared. Humanity had just glimpsed something far beyond our understanding. Then, silence. The object faded from official tracking. No further press releases, no updates, no telescope data. The world moved on, or was made to. But in certain circles, the question lingered. Why did NASA shut down the feed right then? What was so threatening that millions couldn't be allowed to see it live? Some say it wasn't just the sphere. They claim that seconds before the feed went black, something else appeared behind 3I/ATLAS, a faint geometric shadow, massive and symmetrical, perhaps a vessel cloaked until it was accidentally caught in the camera's exposure. The last visible frame showed faint lines converging into a hexagonal shape before everything cut to static. If true, it meant the sphere wasn't alone. New whispers from inside the agency describe an internal file labeled Tessera. Its contents supposedly include analyses of self-directed mechanical orbs of unknown manufacture operating within the 3I/ATLAS field. These orbs, the file states, exhibited non-Newtonian motion and coordinated patterning. To the trained eye, that means one thing: intelligence. The deeper researchers dug, the stranger it got. In archived SETI logs, signals detected just before the NASA shutdown matched an earlier unclassified transmission recorded decades ago during the Galileo Deep Space Probe mission. Both signals shared identical frequency harmonics, too specific to be chance. It was as though something had been waiting for a human transmission to reply. By now, NASA's silence felt more like fear than secrecy. The agency's upper levels were caught between disclosure and containment. To admit that a non-human artifact had entered our solar system, and that it had responded, would shatter paradigms not just of science, but of control. And perhaps that was the real reason the feed went dark. Those who captured fragments of the transmission noticed something else hidden in the background noise, a rhythmic hum, almost melodic. When slowed down and converted into an audio spectrogram, it formed repeating waveforms eerily similar to human speech patterns. Linguists mapped them into Proto-Sumerian phonetics. The translated phrase, roughly, was, "We return when the gate opens." The connection to the ancient Mesopotamian narrative was now undeniable. The same civilization that spoke of beings descending in fiery spheres may have left us a warning, or a promise. And 3I/ATLAS, carrying the metallic sphere, might be fulfilling that cycle right now. Government agencies have since labeled 3I/ATLAS non-trackable. Civilian telescopes receive automated error messages when attempting its coordinates. The data suppression is total. Yet whispers continue. Amateur radio enthusiasts claim to intercept faint bursts echoing the original pulse pattern. It's as if the message continues, waiting for someone to decode it fully. Dr. Greer, in his latest conference, addressed it directly. We are on the threshold of cosmic contact, but it won't come through a handshake. It comes through recognition, through realizing we were never alone. He pointed out that the Anunnaki myths and the modern UAP phenomena share one language of intent: return. Humanity, through its telescopes and live streams, might have just witnessed the first visible sign of that prophecy. And NASA, perhaps instructed by higher authorities, chose silence over revelation. As of now, the official record of 3I/ATLAS ends with that single unexplained frame, an image NASA refuses to discuss. But somewhere, deep within restricted archives, lies the truth. The sphere was real, it was operational, and it was intelligent. And though the feed was cut, those who saw it live can't unsee what appeared in that brief flicker of truth. A mechanical eye watching from the abyss, reflecting our own gaze back at us. Because maybe the real secret isn't that NASA shut down the live stream. Maybe the real secret is that something out there was watching us. And finally, we looked back. In the days that followed, quiet rumblings began to stir within the corridors of power. Somewhere in the shadowed hallways of Langley and inside the sealed conference rooms at NASA's Goddard facility, men and women who had seen the unedited transmission met behind closed doors. Their expressions, those who leaked fragments of that meeting later said, were not those of excitement or triumph, but of dread. They knew the feed hadn't just captured a foreign object, it had captured a response. A whisper emerged from inside NASA's telemetry analysis unit. The pulse sequence that had been dismissed as interference had matched a secondary coded burst, detected by the Deep Space Network only hours later. The signal wasn't random. It contained mathematical progressions and mirrored Earth origin binary formatting. In other words, it had been tailored for us. But who or what had the capability to know our system? When this information reached Dr. Greer, he didn't hesitate. In a private briefing, he stated that the sequence was a deliberate handshake, a proof of awareness from an intelligence accompanying 3I/ATLAS. His team compared the binary intervals to historic SETI data, and shockingly, a near-identical pattern was found in transmissions recorded in 1977, the still mysterious "wow" signal. The odds of that correlation were astronomical. The implication: whatever emitted that signal nearly 50 years ago might have been linked to what appeared beside 3I/ATLAS now. Meanwhile, deep in the archives of the James Webb data logs, a line of code stood out, one timestamp referencing external redaction request by interagency directive. Such directives were rare, invoked only when data intersected with classified aerospace technology or defense operations. It confirmed the growing suspicion that NASA wasn't in charge anymore. The agency had been sidelined. Unmarked transports began arriving at observatories across the world. Dishes once pointed toward the coordinates of 3I/ATLAS were suddenly recalibrated for solar research. Scientists under non-disclosure agreements were replaced by defense contractors. The quiet war for information had begun. In underground forums and encrypted channels, astronomers traded fragments of data. A composite reconstruction showed that after the sphere separated from the comet's core, its trajectory altered slightly toward the inner solar system. But what astonished everyone was its speed. It wasn't decelerating anymore. It was accelerating. A theory formed quickly. The sphere had used 3I/ATLAS as a carrier, a form of cosmic disguise to mask its entry into our system. Once close enough, it detached and began its independent journey, destination unknown. That possibility drew comparisons to ancient Sumerian inscriptions referring to the travelers of the deep, emissaries who hid among the stars until the time of return. For millennia, their symbols, circles within circles, had been found carved on clay tablets buried beneath Iraqi sands. Archaeologists once thought them mere artistic flourishes. Now, they looked disturbingly like blueprints. As whispers grew, so did the cover-up. Several researchers involved in analyzing the original live stream footage reported sudden terminations of grants and institutional access. One, an astrophysicist from Munich, disappeared altogether. His last communication stated only, "It's not a comet, it's a vessel." Greer's sources within the intelligence community began sending him documents marked Operation Silent Vector. The files, fragmented and partly redacted, referenced re-entry protocol and containment. One page, almost erased, bore the chilling phrase, "If visual contact reoccurs, initiate blackout within 0.7 seconds." That line proved the NASA shutdown hadn't been spontaneous. It was an automated kill switch designed for one purpose: censorship. Late one evening, independent satellites belonging to private space startups caught a brief optical flash near the orbit of Mars. Analysts described it as a directional energy event. It lasted 2 seconds, then silence. Hours later, the same region emitted a low-frequency burst that propagated toward Earth. The signal, when processed, contained an audio layer buried deep in its carrier wave. When enhanced, it produced tones resembling a human voice saying a phrase that translated roughly to, "Observe the return." To those who had studied the Anunnaki tablets, those words echoed an ancient prophecy describing the gods of flight, who would one day rise again from the dark river between worlds. More fragments emerged from the digital void. A frame-by-frame reconstruction of the last second before NASA's feed went black revealed the faint outline of geometric panels unfolding around the sphere, forming a honeycomb pattern of light. Engineers studying the image compared it to metamaterial lattice designs under classified propulsion projects. It wasn't reflection, it was transformation. Even in silence, the public sensed something was deeply wrong. For the first time, mainstream networks refused to air NASA's denial statements. Journalists from Reuters and Le Monde reported outside editorial pressure. Yet, small alternative channels kept the fire alive. They analyzed star charts, tracked missing data points, and pieced together a chilling trajectory. The sphere was no longer drifting. It was on a controlled path toward the vicinity of Earth's orbit. Governments issued quiet directives. Space traffic data vanished from civilian portals. Air Force radar was recalibrated, but the blackout couldn't erase the unease spreading through global consciousness. Humanity had glimpsed something intelligent and uninvited entering our domain. Then came the second signal. Radio telescopes in Australia and South Africa detected synchronized pulses that repeated every 11 minutes. Each burst carried harmonics impossible in natural astrophysical sources. Embedded within was a binary code spelling out a repeating numerical sequence, 6060. Ancient Sumerian scholars immediately noted the connection. Base 60 mathematics, the language of the Anunnaki gods. Coincidence perhaps, but the timing was too perfect. At the heart of all this, Greer released a document claiming the Pentagon had convened a closed-door emergency meeting under the label Project Rainfall. The agenda: evaluate public readiness for limited disclosure in the event of interstellar technological detection. The meeting minutes, if genuine, confirmed what millions already suspected. 3I/ATLAS was not alone. While the world debated online, a quiet update appeared in the Minor Planet Center's database. The entry for 3I/ATLAS was amended to read inactive, non-observable. Within an hour, the note disappeared, replaced by a generic data unavailable. Someone was erasing its existence in real time. Independent astronomers in Chile refused to comply. Using old analog imaging systems disconnected from the internet, they captured faint glimmers of movement where the object should have been. The images showed 3 points of light arranged in a perfect triangle, pulsing in unison, each separated by exact geometric distance. The pattern repeated for 2 hours before fading. It was formation flight. Greer, in a closed seminar, made the statement that would echo across the digital underground. The transmission was a test. They wanted to see if we were listening. NASA's mistake was proving that we were. After that, activity increased exponentially. Instruments in orbit began detecting gravitational anomalies inconsistent with known planetary bodies. Several classified military satellites were suddenly retasked to deep space observation. Anonymous sources whispered of intercept protocols, though none could confirm what exactly was being intercepted. Weeks passed. Then, a new leak from a whistleblower identified only as SC surfaced online. It included a heavily redacted mission summary referencing unknown craft exhibiting biomechanical characteristics. That phrase stunned the scientific world. Biomechanical meant organic and engineered, alive, yet constructed. It suggested that whatever the sphere was, it wasn't simply a machine. It was a hybrid. The concept echoed tales buried deep in ancient myth, entities described as living lights, creations of the gods themselves. If such beings once existed, could one have survived long enough to drift between the stars and return home? Another revelation soon followed. A cross-correlation of the radio bursts and NASA's archived telemetry revealed a precise match in timing with Earth's magnetic resonance peaks. It was as if the object was synchronizing itself with our planet, listening, tuning, preparing. At that realization, the mood changed. What began as fascination shifted into quiet dread. Greer's message grew more urgent. They're not coming. They're already here. The blackout isn't protection. It's preparation. And satellite data began showing disturbances in the upper atmosphere, localized magnetic fluctuations appearing and disappearing near the equator. Military jets scrambled but never disclosed their mission. Residents in remote regions of Brazil and the Pacific reported seeing luminous spheres hovering silently before vanishing without a trace. Then, for the first time since the NASA shutdown, a voice returned from the void. A new transmission, relayed through multiple deep space antennas, arrived with a simple directive encoded in universal mathematics, a vector coordinate pointing directly to Earth's moon. At that point, Everyone realized 3I/ATLAS wasn't just an object. It was a signal chain, and its next node was far closer than anyone imagined. Behind the scenes, an internal communication leaked from a European Space Agency server referenced Luna Anomaly tracking, high priority. It contained one image, a faint, perfect circle embedded in shadow near the moon's south pole, emitting a weak but constant infrared glow. The metadata aligned with the last known pulse from the sphere. If the object had arrived there, it was hiding now, waiting. The implications were staggering. Humanity had unknowingly live-streamed the arrival of an ancient intelligence, then watched as its emissary descended into lunar orbit. The entire chain of events, from NASA's broadcast to the blackout, now read like a carefully orchestrated play. The players were invisible, but their message was clear. The feed had been cut, but the story had only just begun. And somewhere, in the cold silence between worlds, that metallic sphere, alive, ancient, deliberate, was watching us still.